Have you ever heard of the Blair twig?
Isn't that something about bad tree stuff?
Hey, do you know about the Blair twig?
Duh, that's like a myth or something, like a game you play at a slumber party. It's not real.
Wait, hey! Hey, have you ever heard about the Blair twig?
No, I don't want to talk about it. I gotta get out of here.
The Blair twig's everywhere around here. Everywhere. She's everywhere, the Blair twig.
I'm Ashley Gulick with PCT 23, and tonight the search for the cause of dead trees in Paulding County continues. We go live to Mary Carroll at the Paulding Extension. Mary Carroll, can you tell us, does the mulch issue have anything to do with the dead trees in Paulding? What are your thoughts?
Do you know about the Blair twig?
Oh yes, I know all about the Blair twig.
Thanks, Mary Carroll. PCT 23 will continue to get to the bottom of this story. I'm Ashley Gulick reporting for PCT 23.
It was my fault. It was my project. I'm so scared. They're dead. Oh my God! No!
Oh, hey!
Hi!
Luckily, we're here today with Bob and Betty and Earl, and we're gonna take care of this Blair twig project right away. Y'all are gonna teach us how to plant a tree right so it'll live.
Planted right. Gonna be done right.
Right tree for the right place.
Right tree for the right place, right time of year.
Awesome, let's get started.
How to choose the right spot for your tree. Choosing the wrong spot could be a real problem. You put a tree in the wrong spot and it's really hard to transplant. This is not a bush or a shrub, this is a tree. Once it's in, it's going to be awful hard to move. What you want to think about when choosing the spot is, why are you planting this tree? Is it for color? Is it for size? Is it for shade? Is it for privacy? Is it for the colors of the flowers or the fruits that they're going to have? These are all things you need to think about when you're choosing the tree. First, you want to make sure the light is right. It has to be either at bright sun, it'll say on the tag when you buy it, semi-shade, complete shade. The other thing you want to keep in mind is the fruit that it's going to drop. If it's acorns, if it's spiny balls, these will get in the way of the foot traffic of walking around it. You don't want to do that. If it's smelly fruit like ginkgo trees, you want to avoid that. In choosing the spot, you want to be 15 to 20 feet away from the house, a sidewalk, a driveway, because the roots are going to go out and then you'll have cracks. If it's too close to the house, you might have foundation problems. So make sure you're far enough away, 15 to 20 feet or half the height of the mature tree, which will be on the tag. Other things you want to know is how tall will the tree get? Is there enough room for the roots? Can you water it? Don't get too far away from water sources if you want to use a hose. The roots travel across the top of the ground. That's why it's important to mulch out to the drip line and water out to the drip line. The roots go out, they don't go down. Pine trees will go down, they have a taproot. Most hardwood trees, the roots will go out along the ground. So it's only going to go down to 10 to 12 inches. okay? Now it might go out 10 to 15 feet as far as the drip line of the tree. The drip line is how far out the branches go. Very important time of year when you plant things. This is a container. A container will cost you 25% more to buy it, but you can plant it spring, summer, or fall, and it has less stress, less shock when you do plant it. The burlap, ball and burlap, and the bare root, you really need to plant in the early spring or the late fall. You really don't need to do it during the hot weather. When you do plant the burlap, though, you make sure you take all the burlap off. The containers, you can cut or you can wiggle them out. Remember too, when you're planting a tree, don't ever lift by the tree. Most people in nurseries will carry around trees by grabbing it down here by the tree. That will rip out the top roots of the tree. What you want to do is always handle it by the container, by the burlap, all right, when you're moving or you're taking it out of it to plant. That's very important, because if you rip those top roots, might be a year, might be 2 years, the tree will die. Very important to get the site ready before you plant the tree. You need to dig a hole that's 3 times the size of either the ball or the container. It should be a saucer shape so that the roots go off on an angle. And we should be deep enough so that when you plant the tree, the root collar, which is the base here on the tree collar, or the root flare. The flare is where the root's going to come out from the bottom of the tree. Should be 1 inch or 2 above the soil that you put in the ground. So, Earl is going to measure. We use the shovel across it because we can, when we plant it, we're not going to have the ruler in there, so we can use a shovel to make sure it's deep enough. You can use a ruler. Next we have our container. We are going to cut this container to get the tree out without disturbing the roots. But to be safe, make sure you don't cut the roots when you cut the container. If you get a little bit, it's not going to matter, but if you get a major root, you could have a problem. These are just cutting shears, which I've wiped down with alcohol. It's real important to wipe down your shears after you do any project, because if you go from tree to tree and you don't use alcohol on them, if a disease from one tree will transfer, or bush will transfer to another. So every time I do a project, I take my shears home and I go over with alcohol or Lysol. You can see the roots on the tree are all pretty small, so even though it is a little root bound, it doesn't have the big thicker roots that girdle the tree, which means to go around it. Okay, you can see the roots are pretty good. Now what we need to do now is loosen the soil around the roots. On the edges and around the bottom, just loosen it up so that the roots can spread out once we water it, once we plant it. What you want to do is 2 things. Number 1, when you bought the tree, you should have picked a single trunk like this here, that was straight as could be. You want it as straight as could be, because if it's bent, it's only going to get more bent as it grows. So this is nice and straight. It's a single tree, a single trunk. Now what you want to do is you want to place it so that it's the best part of the tree faces in the direction that you want people to see it. So therefore, as traffic comes in this way, most of the people will be in cars or walking on these trails. So we want the best part of the tree to face this way. Now, when you get a tree like this, don't trim it. If you have a broken branch or something like that, you can cut it off. But the first year, you should not prune your trees. because it doesn't need it. Now, when you backfill the tree, it is best to just backfill the tree with the dirt that you took out of the hole. Now, if there are bigger pieces, don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. You have to chop it all up because the air needs to get in the soil around the roots. It's real important for the roots to be aerated. We use the soil that we dug out of the hole because as the tree grows, this is the soil the roots are going to have to expand in. If you amend it with humus, cow manure, or whatever, when the roots get out, it will stay in there and it won't be able to spread into the ground itself. This area out here has no amendments. So therefore the hole has to be just the soil that you took out of it. All right, so now we planted our tree. But you might want to dig a little trench around the edge of the hole. 2 to 3 inch trench around the edge of the hole will hold the water in by the roots of the tree as it's growing. Or you can fill it back in like Earl's doing. Oh, he's making it on the outside. He's building it up instead of digging it down. Depends how much dirt you have. Basically, you want to keep the water around the roots of the tree that you've planted. You can see that our root ball is 1 inch or 2 above the soil around it. That's what you're looking for. All right, that's what you're looking for. Now once the tree is planted, it's real important within 2 hours to water this tree. Newly planted trees, especially if they're ball and burlap or they're just root trees, will tend to go into shock. They'll be stressed out by being planted. Water on the roots will help lessen this problem. Now, for the first week or 2, if there is no rain, you're going to need to water the tree. When there's times of rain, 1 to 3 inches of rain a week, then you don't have to worry about watering the tree. Okay? It's real important to stop it from going into shock, because if it goes into shock, this tree will die very quickly. All right, if you press down the dirt, the roots, it's harder for the roots to expand, so you don't want to step down. The ground will settle as it gets watered. Part of the problem, the thing with the water is it settles the earth, the soil around the tree. Now it's very important that you mulch the tree, all right, for a couple of reasons. Number one, when you hit the hot weather and you don't mulch the tree, that water is going to evaporate into the air instead of sinking into the ground. Mulch will keep the moisture in the ground. Okay, there are different kinds of mulch. You can go anywhere from pine bark mulch, you can go to nuggets, which sometimes blow away or animals disturb them. The mulch kind, while it doesn't last as long, is better for holding in the moisture. This is pine, this is cedar, you can mix it. Other people use the bright red mulch if they like the red for decorative. There's no difference as far as the purpose of the mulch. We're using mulches and we're going to mix pine and cedar, and we're going to we will not touch the tree. It's real important not to get the mulch up around the tree because you don't want moisture settling in around the base of the tree because it'll rot. So you want to come out and cover 2 to 3 inches deep, 4 inches if you have enough. You want to cover the whole hole. All right, now let's talk real quick about staking a tree. You should never stake a tree. If you have a tree that you think needs staking, then either it was too small to begin with or you didn't plant it correctly. If it's straight, if it's planted correctly, you should not have to stake a tree. A problem with staking the tree is if you stake it, the string or the wire that you run here, if you forget to take it off, it girds around the tree and digs into the trunk. That will kill the tree. Now, aftercare. Number one, you don't cut it for a year, you don't fertilize it for a year. After, maybe if you plant it in the fall, come spring, take a soil sample and send it to the extension office in your county. Have them test it to see what needs to be added for the tree. Tell them you're growing trees, what kind of trees. They'll tell you exactly what you need. Other than that, do not put fertilizer. Now, as far as trimming, if you don't have a broken branch, for the first year, you leave it alone. After a year, you can start shaping the tree. Other things in the aftercare, as the tree grows and the roots spread out, you're going to need to loosen up the dirt out to the drip line. You're going to need to loosen up the soil across the top, probably 6 to 8 inches deep so that the roots can come out. You're going to need to add mulch. Again, the way we mulched is the correct way. Don't pile it up against the tree like you see, because that'll ruin your tree. Spread it out so where if you think, I would keep the mulch out to the drip line. And what I do is I would go down with a pickaxe, a pitchfork, and just dig around, just loosen up the soil around it, and then add mulch to the middle and to around it. This will help the roots spread out. The tree will grow nicer, it'll grow faster, and it'll be healthier. And then when you water in the future, water this area too. Don't just water around the base of the tree. As the tree gets bigger, spread your watering out more because the roots are going to be out. They're going to need the water, they're going to need the oxygen. Also be careful when you use your lawnmowers, when you use weed eaters. Don't get close to where you're going to wound that tree. Watch for wounds on the tree, watch for insects. If you see insects, you need to either call your extension office or go to your local nursery and find out what's going to help. Sometimes, if you do see a wound in the tree, if it's not real deep, the tree will compact it, will close it off. Don't spray it with the black paint. Not necessary, doesn't do any good. And that's what you should do. Take care of your trees, and your trees will take care of you.
I'm Mary Carol Sheffield, and I'm the Paulding County Extension Coordinator. One of the goals of Master Gardeners and of Cooperative Extension in Paulding County is to increase people's soil and water conservation habits. And one of the ways that you can do that is by planting trees. But the trees that you plant on your property help absorb water during storm events and help prevent runoff into our local waterways. So planting a tree is a really great way to help improve our soil and water quality in Paulding County. You can contact our office at 770-443-7616. You can also find the information online at our website, www.ugaextension.com/Paulding. So I hope that you will have found today's presentation useful and that you'll plant your tree correctly so that you don't become a victim of the Blair Twig project.
Have you ever heard of the Blair Twig?
Oh, sure.